Hello, everyone. I would like to apologise for not being online before today. So today is the 21st of March, and with what's going on in the world, I have been called to speak as all of the spiritual leaders, starseeds, light workers, truthers, they will all have that feeling, that call to speak. And obviously, I got this call quite a few days ago, but I have been doing two things, and which is why I haven't been online before today. Number one, I've been processing all the new information coming through from the Nine, because they download information to me at the moment anyway, about sort of 24 hours before things are occurring. So I'm getting like a 24-hour information download prior to things that are occurring. The reason for that is because of the real-time play, due to the fact that there is a conflict going on, to put it nicely. The information is not coming in at the moment ages beforehand, because that is then put into the collective, and that can be remote viewed by other groups. So the collective psychic awareness of the aware individuals is being sort of protected in this bubble, so that by the time it's remote viewed, it's already happened. And that's kind of happening on both sides. Anyway, that's one reason. I was processing all the new information coming in, dealing with my own personal issues with what's happening, as everyone will be going through that. Just because you are a starseed or in touch with higher density beings, it doesn't mean that you're immune from what is occurring and your own issues. You will have more tools to cope than the average person, but you won't be immune. And then, of course, the other reason why I haven't been online until now is I have been putting, selfishly if you like, but mothers will do this, my children first. I wanted to make sure my children were all okay with this, and that they all had everything that they needed, and my parents, and I just wanted to know that my family was in place and okay. And obviously this huge awakening that's taking place right now is including my own family members, so I'm giving them a crash course in sort of what's going on, as I'm sure you are too. So that's the reason why I haven't been online until now. Now, what I'm going to do here in this talk is something I haven't done before. As I've said, there is a great awakening going on right now, unprecedented awakening on multiple levels, which I'm sure everyone listening to this who's already familiar with this information will be aware of this. And because of that, I am going to take into account that complete and utter newcomers to this situation may be finding their way to this video. So I'm going to be addressing the awakened individuals that are already familiar with this story and with my work. It may be the first time you've found me. If so, hello, welcome to my YouTube channel, or wherever you're viewing this from. But if you're already aware of what's going on, I'm going to address you as an awakened individual. Obviously, there are people who followed my work for many years, read my books, so, you know, we're a family already. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all well. And then, of course, we have newcomers who are not only new to my material, they're new to the entire story. They believed that life, as they were living it up until a few days ago, was life. And whilst there are still a lot of people within that current narrative and believing that current narrative, obviously, there are those who have very, very quickly woken up to the fact that something is not right. And this is huge. The individuals who are believing the narrative are, a lot of them are in a situation where they believe the narrative, but then they've got this little niggling voice saying, I don't know if this just doesn't feel right. Something feels off. Because they're all at home and they're not out at work. Obviously not everybody, but the majority of the world is at home, is not working. Many people do not work from home, so they are at home having to do things like cooking and gardening and home educating their children, which is wonderful, by the way. But they have time to listen to that voice. And what I mean is, for many people, for many, many years, there's been a little niggling voice in the back of their mind. Hold on one second. I'm having a cup of tea brought to me here. Green tea, thank you very much, with honey. Thank you very much. Thank you, my dear husband. I'm actually on honeymoon officially. We made our lovely hand fasting, which we had last year. We made it legal on, I've lost track of days. We're Saturday today. So we made our union legal on Tuesday. So on 4 days on honeymoon, but yeah, obviously we're at home. I'm working and everything else. Reason why I've got some tea here, I will explain. I'm actually losing my voice. No, I don't have any symptoms of any kind of virus, but I've been talking so much that I am actually losing my voice. I think I've got maybe a little bit of laryngitis going on there. Who knows? So I'm going to have this tea sip as I speak. So as I was saying, for many years, many individuals have been walking around living their life with this little niggling voice at the back of their mind. So they're going to work, they're focusing on work, family, money, stressful problems, everything else that comes with our system. And this little niggling voice at the back of their mind that's saying something just is not quite right with the way this world is set up. Or that voice may have been louder, as in, I don't agree with this political strategy, or I can't believe this article I've just read in this newspaper, or whatever it may be. There's been a collective awakening going on for a long time, but this little niggling voice that has been there, even if at times it's shouted at people, they are so very busy with their life, their work, their family, their situation, money, the worries, base chakra, as in real world stuff, that they haven't really had time to focus on that niggling voice. And what's happening now is that as people are taken away from that system, that infrastructure, they now have time to listen to that niggling voice. This awakening is not necessarily new, even to these people who are newly awakened. They're not actually newly awakened. They've known about these things or known or felt for a long, long time, and they just simply haven't had time to look into it. I've actually had people say to me before, I believe what you're saying, Magenta, but I just don't have time to sit and research it all. You know, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. I have a family, I have children, I have health issues, I have an elderly parent, I have a job, whatever it may be. They haven't had time, and now for the first time, so that awakening isn't necessarily brand new. There was a seed there already, and they've now got time to devote to that. So what I'm going to do here as I go through this talk, this presentation or whatever, is to address two groups of people. So I'm going to talk to the awakened individuals. So we're looking at, within that group, we have an awakened group, and within that group we have, say, light workers and starseeds, and we have individuals that may call themselves truth seekers, truthers, conspiracy theorists, whatever name you want to give them. So we're looking at 5D and 4D awakened individuals within that. So I'm going to be addressing you, and then I am going to translate what I'm saying for a newly awakened individual, so that if they do find their way to this video, they can follow what I'm saying. That might be a bit boring for you guys who already know this stuff, so please bear with me. And to the newcomers, I'm sorry, a lot of this information may be absolute information overload. Sorry about that as well. However, we are now in a situation, we are now in a time where it is no longer a luxury to sit back and learn this stuff. It's kind of happening now. We're slap bang in the middle of it. This is the end time. This is a culmination period of a long, long, long history. And we don't want to say we don't have time. We do. It's important that we remain not rushed. We do have time. But what I'm saying is, I now need to address many different groups of individuals at once. And so some of you are going to be bored and others might be overwhelmed. So just bear with me. Wherever you are, you're meant to be where you are. It's fine. So let's get into it and let's begin. I'm going to call the awakened groups light workers and starseed. There's one group. Truth seekers and truthers is the other group. Of course, these are overlapping, but there are many different mindsets. There are many different perspectives and opinions and ways of seeing the world within that group, as you know. And then we have the newly awakened, which are a whole new group and have many, many reasons why they're newly awakened. I'm not necessarily talking about I'm addressing the newly awakened now. I'm not talking about spiritually awakened. You do not have to be spiritually awakened to understand this material, because I'm talking about what is going on in the real world, the physical world that you see around you. I'm talking about the whole situation to do with the virus and the shutdown. That is the core point of this talk for you, the newly awakened group. So it doesn't matter if you don't really get the rest of the content, you're still going to get the information you need. Obviously, for the light workers and the starseeds, we are talking here about what's occurring in the higher dimensional situation, what's occurring within the timelines, and how we can, despite our physical separation right now, how we can continue to hold the timeline that leads to an ascension process. So I'm talking on multiple levels here about many different things all at once. And the truthers, same with you. You will get information regarding the virus and the shutdown and, you know, what people are calling a conspiracy. You'll get that as well. You don't need to take any notice of the spiritual information. So I've got these three groups I'm going to be communicating with at the same time. So the newly awakened group at the moment have no idea what is going on. They are just having to rely on what they're hearing on the news, what the government is saying, what's being posted all over the government websites, and they're feeling quite lost because they're kind of thrown into a reality that they never dreamed could ever really exist. So because it's existing right now, those individuals are thinking, well, this is either the worst killer virus that we have ever had on this planet, and it's got to be just doomsday horrific, and they potentially have gone into an end of the world kind of scenario way of thinking. You have another bunch of unaware individuals that haven't faced their own collective trauma and shadow. So they are thinking to themselves, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want anything to do with this situation. So I'm going to pretend that it's not existing, and I'm going to stay in my house, and I'm going to do some gardening and read that book I've needed to read for ages, or clean the cupboards, or whatever they're doing, and I don't want to know. That's okay if that's where you are. And there are many other reactions. Some people are taking this fairly well and are quite calm. Others are angry because they don't believe for a second that this can possibly be so severe that the system has to shut down. They're right, of course. But they don't have the information in front of them to give them the confirmation they need of their own knowings. They are angry because this just doesn't seem in proportion, and they're correct. Then there's a whole other bunch of individuals that are very, very angry because their social system has been shut down. So you have to see that individuals are go to work, they come home, they watch a film, they go to bed, have their tea, go to bed. They do that Monday to Friday. Friday night, they go down the pub. Friday night is the night you live for. You work all week, you slog it out all week at a job you hate to earn just about enough to scrape by, if that. And thank God for the pub on a Friday night. That keeps them going. That's gone. That's gone. That's had the rug. That's That's the rug being pulled out from underneath them. They don't have their anchor anymore. Yeah, they can go and get some drink from the, from the local shop, but that's not what this is about. This is socializing. Humans are social animals, and it's not just about the pub. Obviously, we've got theaters and your freedoms. There's a whole world for you to enjoy, and that's stopped. So people are bewildered, frightened, panicked, in grief. And anyone who's been following this story for quite some time will be fully aware of this situation and will be fully prepared. And what I'd like to say to these newcomers is, to us, the individuals who I'm calling light workers, starseeds, spiritually awakened individuals, truth seekers, conspiracy theorists, if you like, to us, this situation that's occurring now is not a surprise or a big shock in the same way that it is to you. Now, I'm not saying that any of us knew that it would be a virus, but this shutdown of society is nothing new to us. We are fully aware that this could happen one day and probably would. Many of us have known about this for many, many years and have been preparing for this for many years. I personally heard this information in 1993. So we're looking at what, 27 years, if my maths is correct. So this is no surprise to us. We're prepared for the shutdown of society and what it means and what it may mean and how it may affect us. We didn't know it would be a virus. We knew that that was one of the possibilities, but we've known that this would occur at some point, or was very likely to. We didn't know for sure, but to be honest, Nostradamus predicted this in, I believe, 1905. So, I mean, this isn't something new. I mean, this has been handed down from religious groups, not religious groups, but shamanic groups, indigenous peoples, the Mayans, the many, many, many different cultures have handed down information about these times. I mean, it's in the Bible, end of days, the book of Revelations, it's all there. That's where we are. Does this mean that this is the end of the world, that this is a killer virus that's going to wipe us all out and that we're all going to die? Or does it mean that the virus isn't really a threat, but that the government or the shadow government or the deep state, whatever you want to call it, are going to kill us all? These are the two main fears here, this doomsday scenario either way. And I'm emphatically telling you now, no. Put your mind at rest. No, this is not what this means. But make no mistake, those agendas are real. So there was an attempt to depopulate the some of society, predominantly China, and there is also at this point now an attempted takeover of society, and that isn't about killing us, it's about controlling us and being able to mine our energy, as in, what can we offer society, what can we give to the world, how can we burn ourselves out and give all our strength and our energy and our time and our focus to a master race or to a group of controllers, if you like. That's what this is about. It's about mining our us as if we're a resource, like how we do with animals, what humans do to animals, and have them all in battery farming, or making them work the land, or making racehorses run until they're falling over. We exploit animals, and these individuals or beings are doing the same to the human race. We're just simply seen from their perspective as a resource, and a big resource, an important resource. It's like a farmer with all his cattle. That farmer knows the cattle is worth money and is a resource. And can you imagine several farmers fighting over a herd of cattle? It's kind of what's happening now. We've got several individuals, groups and beings fighting over the human race and what they can offer. So no, that isn't about killing us. Having said that, there are several groups within this larger group that all have different ideas and all want different things to happen. And some of them believe that there's too many people on this planet, so they want to depopulate this planet. And that's what the virus was about. It wasn't just about that. So as I say to the newcomers, I apologize for bombarding you, and to those who already know this stuff, I apologize for going a bit slow. As I said, you might be a little bit bored. So that's basically where people are right now as this is occurring and where their minds are. So with this virus and the shutdown of society, and I'm going to talk more about both of those, the intention was from different groups to either depopulate some of society, or, and this is more of an agenda, put society in a situation where they can be easily controlled. Now, everything over the last, well, since 2012, really, certainly since 2013, and in certain ways even before that, everything that these individuals have done, and I will talk about who these individuals are, everything that they have done lately, since sort of 2012, and certainly intensifying in the last 3 years, certainly since 2017, everything that they do has been backfiring on them. They think, right, this is what we're going to do, and this is how it's going to work out, because they can predict everything, and they have technology to predict things, either through their own working, black magic, if you want to call it that, or actual scientific tech, whatever, it doesn't really matter. They have the ability to plan things, so they're thinking this will happen, and then this will happen, and then this will happen. But this technology that they have only sees a certain amount. It's a lot, but it's also in many ways limited. And there are certain things they can't see. And what they can't see is this backfiring that's going on. So they try this, they try A, B, C, and D, and think, right, well, from A, we'll get to D, and that's great. And then they get to A and B, and then all of a sudden everything goes wrong for them, and it all completely changes, and they end up with the opposite of what they wanted. And that's what's happening now. This is supposed to quieten us, dumb us down, keep us separated, keep us in a situation of social isolation and fear. And what it's actually creating is unity, togetherness, compassion, and awakening. A massive, massive awakening, like you wouldn't believe. Now, this awakening, I'm speaking here to the light workers and the truthers. This awakening has been predicted for many years, and you all know about it. You knew it was coming. You're well prepared for it, and many of you are probably very excited that it's finally here, because you can be vindicated in what you've been saying for many years. Everyone's been looking at you as the crazy, crazy tinfoil hat person, and finally those people are turning to you and saying, what's going on? And they're looking at you like someone who has information that they aren't getting anywhere else. And they're right, you do. And now is the time to give them that information. But don't let, my advice would be, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but my advice would be careful with that excitement. Understand it, completely fine, that you feel vindicated, but that is not what this is about. This is not so that we can say to the rest of the world, I told you this was going to happen. You called me crazy. You said I was a tinfoil nutter, and I'm right. That is not what this is about. This is about the people who have been trapped within the system and who have been lost. And our job is to help them now like never before. Make no mistake, like never before. And I really emphasize that. The truthers, the light workers, the starseeds, the spiritual teachers, the holistic healers, you are needed like never before. And that will continue for an indefinite period of time. But right now, You are crucial. You are the individuals on the front line, sitting at home, doing this from your computers or your telephones or writing, whatever you're doing. You are the ones on the front line in a very different way to the individuals who are literally on the physical front line. So try to temper that sort of excitement about being vindicated. And I'll come to that again in a little bit later, because there are a lot of truthers that are not quite seeing the picture as it is. They're seeing a lot of the picture, but they're still looking at a polarity. And whilst, yes, on the physical level, it's a polarity, seeing the polarity and only the polarity is not going to assist us to manifest what we need to, because whilst it's all occurred in the higher dimensions, we aren't in the higher dimensions in this reality. We need to get there and we need to manifest it. So as I said, I'm speaking on multiple levels because there is so much going on. Now, to the total newcomers, you probably don't understand a thing I just said, and that's fine. And as I said, I apologize for bombarding you. So you're here to find information, and I am not going to say to you, I told you. Now, some people might say, I told you all this was going to happen, and you may be, you know, just in a complete state of shock, but you're going to want to know information. Now, the person in your circle, there will be guaranteed at least one person, probably more, but at least one person in your social circle, possibly in your family, possibly one of your friends that you've known for years, who you've always thought of as a little bit odd and a little bit strange and got some, you know, weird conspiracy theory kind of views, and you've kind of kept away from them. These are the people that you need to turn to now, because they do have information. Now, within that, you're going to have some people that really are unbalanced in their thinking and haven't quite got this into any kind of perspective. It's going to be down to you, even though you're a newcomer to all this, it's going to be down to you to work out who is telling the truth, who is deliberately giving you misinformation, who is thinking of your own best interests and trying to help you, who is trying to help you but they've got it all wrong. Or I can't help you with that here in this talk. I have other videos. I've been on YouTube for 11 years. I have other videos that have been made in advance for this time to assist you in fine-tuning your intuition so that you can tell who to listen to. Having said all that, to you, the newcomers, the person you need to listen to more than anyone right now is yourself. If you are falling apart and you are scared and you're crying and you feel in grief, just do whatever it takes to heal those emotions and feelings. And then come back to the point where you think, okay, I'm centered enough now to be able to work out who is telling me the truth about this and who is not. And that's the journey that you are on. And to everyone, whether you are a truther, a light worker, a starseed, an awakened individual, or a total newcomer, you all need to do self-care right now. I need to follow this myself, and it is not easy because we are bombarded with information from all areas, and we want to share it, we want to find things out, we want to know what's going on, we want to deliver what we know is going on, but we need to do self-care. We are human beings. We need to eat and sleep and you know, do some meditation or exercise or whatever it is that you do to get centered. And now that you're at home, you can find ways to do these things. There's loads of internet stuff going on, but it's important to take self-care. Right, so right now we are in an unprecedented great awakening. Now, the individuals that are waking up, I've always referred to these individuals as third dimensional individuals. Now, it's not a derogatory term. It just means you are in the physical world and you are only seeing the physical world, which these beings that I speak to, which are nice beings, this is to newcomers, and it doesn't matter really who I'm speaking to. The issue here is the information. this physical world is referred to as the third dimension. So that's why you're called third dimensional individuals. There are truthers out there, truth seekers, conspiracy theorists, that call you, the newly awakened individuals or the unawakened individuals, normies, which is a little sort of cute way of saying normal. These are just words to describe you, and it should never be derogatory, because as I said right at the beginning, if you're here now watching this video, you are not really a normie or a third dimensional person or newly awakened, because you've always known this stuff. Otherwise, you wouldn't have found this information. You were set to awaken at the time, at the last moment of the Great Awakening. That's what was supposed to happen for you guys. For all the already awakened ones, yes, you know, I always say third dimensional. Some people call them normies. You've got the woke and the normies. That's very sort of truther level. I refer to these individuals as third dimensional individuals, fourth, fifth, as you know, if you've followed my work and you know this stuff. So what I would say to anyone who is a light worker, starseed, holistic teacher, truther, your role right now is to reassure your family members, reassure your loved ones, help as much as you can in the community. So if you've got YouTube videos, blogs, you have a following, get out there, do whatever you can, whether it's giving information, whether it's reassuring people. That is the most important thing. And so I'm going to talk about why reassuring people and assisting them to balance and stay centered is so important. I'm going to discuss on a spiritual level. So, you know, those who know my work will know exactly what I mean. Anyone who's a newly awakened individual, just listen, take it on board. It doesn't matter if you don't understand what I'm going to say, but I'm addressing now the fifth dimensional individuals and somewhat the truthers as well, because it's time for you to kind of look at the bigger picture even more than perhaps you have. So what we're looking at on the fifth dimensional level and the higher dimensional levels is a timeline war. However, having said that, it's very important not to see the word war as war. It's not to see the word battle as battle, and not to see polarity as polarity. You know what I mean? We are aware that this is a war, a battle, and it's a polarity, but we manifest the timeline that we want to through an understanding of unity. So we don't reject battle and war, but we integrate it and we take it into a place where it is a unified, bliss-charged love source. So if I talk more about this polarity, this timeline war, as you will probably be aware, the Nine have been talking for quite some time, well over the last year, but certainly in the end of 2019, about the end of the cabal, Illuminati, deep state, whatever you want to call it. From that point of view, we say the negative elite, or we could say the service to self groups. So the end of them, the fall of the cabal. Now what that meant and what that means is that in the fourth dimensional infrastructure, there was a core generator known as, and this has to be metaphor because we are speaking here about energy, you could call this the main generator of the black box system. Any of you out there watch Star Trek, go watch Star Trek, look at the Borg and the Borg cube. You know, this is all truth out in fiction. I'm not saying that this looks like a Borg cube. What I'm saying is that this is an energetic structure that I'm talking about. The other name that the Nine have given to the structure is the red spider. This is a web, an interconnected web that creates a fourth dimensional template of a reality, creating an artificial intelligence matrix reality that then is fed down into the third dimensional system. That core generator went offline sometime last year. All go follow my videos, you'll see when that happened. So they were without the core generator, the main core of the black box. If you want to watch Star Trek and the Borg, they would have like dismantled the Queen, but still had the workers going without the Queen to focus them all. So that's what happened. The core was dismantled, and that's the red spider was dismantled. So what they had to do was then bring in backup generators in order to feed the AI dark matrix system to create the mirrored reality in the third dimension. So these have been breaking down because there hasn't been a core structure. There's then been breakages within that system. So the group is no longer able to sort of have that hive mind anymore, like in the Borg. That hive mind has had to rely on these backup generators. And this has left those that work for the teams of light, the grid workers, the planetary grid workers, the galactic grid workers, this has left them in a situation where they have been able to go in and clean up that fourth dimensional template, make sure that the fifth dimensional template, which is above the fourth or superimposed within the fourth, deep in the fourth, fractalized within the fourth, they have been able to ensure that that has been a clear and clean system. And it has been the entire time because it's the fifth dimension and that's how the fifth dimension works. They've been able to draw down templates from the sixth dimension and the seventh dimension. All of this work has been done for many, many, many years. Thank you to all the people that came before us that have prepared us for this time. So all this has been in place. So what's been happening over the last year is the fourth dimensional matrix system has been powered by backup generators, and much clearing has been done. And around the time of 2012, and that's what the whole 2012 thing was about, 21st of December 2012, we were able to finally switch into, and it was occurring before 2012, to be honest, around the 2011, and little bits before that, but we were able to switch timelines. So what that means is, obviously, you know, if you're a light worker and a Starseed, but the truth is that maybe following this as well, I understand to newcomers, this is really probably just sounds insane, but just stick with it. So to those who are still with me here, timeline is the outcome for an individual, or the outcome for a group, or the outcome for a planet. Many of you will have heard of the law of attraction. So you can do the law of attraction for yourself, the law of attraction for a group, or the law of attraction for a planet or a solar system or a galaxy or whatever, you know. So for many thousands of years, this planet has followed a timeline, which is, every timeline has like a configuration, like a code within it. And that code has like a core message. The nine call this the core templates of a timeline, or a diamond core template is actually what they call it, because the diamond is the structure. This is about sacred geometry, the crystalline structure. So the core template for a timeline is basically the goal of that timeline. So say I wanted to manifest going on holiday to Spain. Not going to happen right now, I know that, but say I was doing this 6 months ago. I want to manifest a holiday, so I would use the law of attraction with the focus going on holiday to Spain. So I'm going to see myself in Spain, I'm going to make a vision board with pictures of Spain, I'm going to learn to speak Spanish or whatever it may be. I'm going to focus, I'm going to create a focus, an intentional focus, and then allow my Spanish holiday to manifest. Okay, so what's occurring within a timeline, a global and planetary timeline, is a core template. And the core template, the core goal, the core reason that has been the focus for the last many thousands of years, potentially going right back to the beginning of our known history, you know, since the times of Atlantis and Lemuria and ancient civilizations. That's a whole other subject. The core template has been what the nine are calling the Armageddon template. What that actually means is, when you, and don't be afraid by this, I know it's difficult when I'm using words like that, but this is the Armageddon New World Order template. And what that means is those that have been in control of this planet and the timelines for this planet, they're the ones I was talking about earlier, who are seeing individuals as something to market, something to mine, to get energy from. How can they use them? Like a farmer with their cattle, you know, their sheep. How can they use that person's power? So that's been the core goal, is control of humanity, enslavement of humanity. And to be honest with you, it's been working, not to the degree of what's happening now, but unbeknownst to all of these newcomers and all of these individuals that may not know this, this planet has already been enslaved. This is not about us suddenly, out of nowhere, we've been a free planet, and all of a sudden, oh my goodness, we're enslaved right now. That's not what this is about. This planet has already been enslaved and very recently was freed. That's the story. We have been freed from the enslavement for the first time in millennia, thousands and thousands of years. What's happening now is those that want to enslave us are really, really cross and angry. That's a metaphor, and some of them just don't feel that kind of emotion. But either way, they don't like it that we're free. And they want to get us back to where we were. So what I'm saying here is we had a timeline jump. So the core template is the Armageddon New World Order template, which is enslavement of the human race. It's been in place, and that's what the black box red spider program was. It was a false artificial intelligence matrix that is designed through dark magic, creating a specific consciousness that holds a code in place in the fourth dimensional system that then feeds into the third dimension. They were able to keep this going and generated through the enslavement of the human race, because the human race did not realize that they were enslaved, and they were able to continue to control the narrative, take away from the human race what they would have been if they'd been left alone and left to grow naturally. There wouldn't be any wars, because humans don't want to war. They don't want to fight each other. That's only when they're triggered into fighting. So the world wars, both of them, were created, and I know that's a really, really tough thing for people who are newcomers to this to hear, but yes, both world wars were engineered, were funded, were paid for. All of this, everything that's ever happened, it's all part of this New World Order Armageddon timeline. Now, around the time of 2012, which was predicted in the Mayan calendar, as the end of the Mayan calendar, predicted for many, many years, all this information handed down within the tribes, we together, because so many people were awake, and I'm not just talking about being woke to the truther side of things, I'm talking about being awakened to one's own intrinsic true nature and true power, as in, why are we here? What does being human mean? Where have we come from? You know, all of this spiritual awakening to our true self, our true memory, and taking that into our daily practice. Those individuals have been able to change the timeline for this planet, and it's simply manifestation, law of attraction. So many people were doing the law of attraction that they changed the timeline. We're now on a new timeline. That timeline has a different core template, a diamond core template, a proper diamond core template. The Armageddon New World Order is not really a diamond. It's a different kind of structure. It's more, well, it doesn't matter, but it's not the same as diamond. So we're now on this diamond core template, and this is a new goal. This goal is the paradise timeline, the ascension timeline. So we've got the Armageddon New World Order timeline, and we have the paradise ascension timeline. You can also call this the golden age timeline if you want. There are many, many names for it. Now, there aren't just two timelines. There are multiple timelines, infinite timelines, but these are two core timelines. So that's why I speak about them being two. So we switched over around 2012, 2011, 2012. We switched over, and it took a while to just sort of move from one timeline and manifest another. There is a sort of a changeover time period. You don't just do it all in one night, but over time, the consciousness of the light workers and the starseeds and the spiritually aware individuals who are living in love, compassion, service, they were able to hold that consciousness and hold that light through their spiritual practice and their lifestyle, from unplugging from this fourth dimensional dark AI matrix system. And they were able to hold the energetics for this new timeline. Now, despite what's happening right now with the coronavirus situation and the shutdown of society, the nine assure me we are still on the ascension paradise timeline. This hasn't changed. We are still on that timeline. It's important to know that. So we are still on the ascension paradise timeline. The nine have assured me of that. So what's happened is the service to self groups, they knew that this was going to happen. They had technology to be able to see potential futures, and they knew that this was going to happen. They tried to mitigate as much of the awakening as they possibly could in a certain time scale. So they have a race against time, if you like. We do not, because where we're going is about no restrictions. And it's about freedom, and we don't have to be restricted to certain deadlines. But because deadlines create stress and pull the human spirit down, because they're constantly having to follow them. Freedom is about choice and not having deadlines. It's okay to be responsible, but the system has been set up to pull people down so that they cannot give their best. It's been that way for, as I've said, many, many, many years. So what the darker groups, the service to self groups, have done is, over the last few months, as they've been losing this core unit, this red spider, this black box core unit, and they've been using backup generators, they wanted to create a new artificial intelligence, fourth dimensional dark matrix structure, in order to continue to bring down this oppressive system into this third dimensional physical reality. But they didn't have enough power to do that. The power comes from the consciousness, not only of their group, but of the siphoned energetics from the people. They weren't able to siphon enough energetics from the people because the people are waking up. Not all of the people, but because so many people were waking up to the light and becoming sovereign with their own energy fields, they were unable to be siphoned. They were immune from hijacking. My first book, Masters of the Matrix, teaches how to become immune from hijacking so that you do not have your energy system siphoned by this group. So too many people got to a point where they woke up and they were sovereign with their energy systems. They couldn't be siphoned. So the service to self structure in the fourth dimension was losing even the backup generators. They just simply were not creating enough power. So what they had to do was create a situation where they could create mass fear and panic on such a high level that that would continue to generate a new AI structure. So amongst themselves, they've decided as to how this would occur. How do we create this mass fear amongst the people? And they've used technology to look at timelines. As I said, their technology to look at timelines is vast compared to the technology most people have on this planet as to what they can see around them, but it's limited compared to the remote viewing ability of the fifth dimensional landscape, because they can't see the fifth dimension. They can only see like a shadow light from it. It's like all they can see is light. They can't translate it. So they have to go with what they're seeing in a fourth dimensional timeline sense, which is the consciousness of humanity, unawakened humanity and enslaved humanity. They cannot see the consciousness of awakened humanity, but some of them, and these are intelligent people and psychic people, make no mistake, they are not, you know, just because they've lost their power structure within the fourth dimensional field, it doesn't mean that they are, you know, stupid. These are extremely intelligent, extremely clever people, and they have been able to second guess to a certain extent that fifth dimensional energetic structure, which is the consciousness of the fifth dimensionally thinking individuals. They've been able to second guess it. Just checking that's still recording. Yes, it is. So they've been able to create a scenario based on what they're seeing. When I say they, I'm talking about the top tiers of this structure. This structure is known as the deep state. And when we say deep state, we're talking really about politicians and media personnel and that sort of thing, known as the 13 families or the family. This is a group, and this is for the newcomers as well. This is a group of individuals that have been growing in power behind the scenes for many, many, many years. They now have a large family, if you will, a large network that encompasses the world, every single country. Some countries don't have much of them there. It's all predominantly happening in America and Europe and Russia and China, I would say, the bigger players, but it's worldwide. So when you look at your governments and you think, well, just because America has done this and say China's done this and Italy's done this, that doesn't mean to say the UK will do it, because we all have completely different independent governing systems. This is what people think. And that's why they're misled. And that's why when things happen, they think, why are they doing that? It's because there is no individual government. This NWO timeline, this Armageddon timeline, it's not about creating a one world government. We already have a one world government. It's already there. It's just that you can't see it. It's behind the scenes. It operates behind the scenes. It controls all the government structures. What their aim is to be able to step forward and create the one world government, for you to be able to see. And the only way they can do that is for you to ask for it, for the people to say, look, this situation is unacceptable and we need a stronger governing body to sort this situation out. And they're like, okay, do you know what? Let's give you a one world government. We're like, yes, thank you. That's what we want. That's what they're waiting for. It's called problem, reaction, solution. If any of you followed David Icke, he's pretty much the master in teaching what this means. They create the problem, they wait for the reaction, and then they offer the solution. It's very clever. It's very, very predictable. And it's what they've done for thousands of years. Now, for the last few years, since 2012, this has not been working for them as well. It's been working a bit. Because there are so many individuals that are awake now, they're not giving them the reaction they need. So they had to work out, how do we sort of siphon the world to create this new fourth dimensional structure, AI structure? Because what they're trying to do is get back on to the Armageddon New World Order timeline. If they can get back onto the New World Order Armageddon timeline, then they've got it in the bag. And that is world domination, enslavement of the human race, siphoning of the human race energy, and passing all of that to beings that aren't even in the physical form. I'm talking about extraterrestrial beings, and these are very dark entities. Now that sounds dreadful to a newcomer, but there's a really good side to it too, because there are also light entities of extremely wonderful, blissful love and utter compassion. And they have a whole team of people on this planet too, which is why I'm saying that this is a spiritual war. We don't use the word war though, because when you think of it as a war, then you go into polarity, and the idea is to remain in unity, simply because the Paradise Ascension timeline is a unity timeline. The Armageddon New World Order timeline is a timeline of a separation. It's the opposite of unity, which is what they're trying to do. So they had to decide how to get mass fear on this planet. And there were several different scenarios that could have occurred within this group. And as I said, it is made up of non-physical entities, extraterrestrials, and also physical people, just like the light. We have beautiful, wonderful, higher dimensional light beings and angelic structures, and the most amazing, wonderful extraterrestrial beings surrounding the planet with love, and they have all their teams on the earth, and there are people who follow them. I'm one of those people, which is why I'm able to talk to you, because I get my information from them. And that's how come I know about the dark groups, because they show me them and they talk to me about them and teach me, and they've been doing this pretty much really my whole life, but certainly since 1993, and then that ramped up again big time in 2008. So that's when I got online. So I've been online 11 years. So for 11 years, I've been hearing about this information, and they've told me more and more and more. And obviously the last few days, it's like, oh my goodness, I can't even download the information quick enough right now. So within this dark group that I'm calling a service to self group, which is non-physical and physical beings, on the third dimensional level, on the physical level, we know these individuals as deep state, Illuminati, cabal, global elite, globalists. They have all these different names, and it's the same group. But within this group, there are sub-factions. And this is something new that the Nine have only really kind of covered over the last few days. There are sub-factions, meaning that within this dark structure there are smaller structures, and those sub-factions, when they had the core generator, the core black box generator, and the red spider, the core of that AI fourth dimensional matrix network, they, even though there was infighting, there was just a certain, I won't say unity because it's the wrong word, but there was a cohesive hive mind there, and there was a certain order that needed to be followed because the core generator was in place. So if you want to translate this into a physical sense, there would have been a group or a person, a leader or a group of leaders that would have told everybody else what to do. And even if they're all fighting amongst themselves, they have to answer to this leader or group of leaders. That group of leaders or leader was taken out of the picture. I don't know how, but the fourth dimensional presentation of that is the end of this red spider and this black box core. So that's gone. That leader or that group of leaders is gone, leaving them to fight amongst themselves and giving them a little bit more power, because it's like, well, we don't have to answer to them anymore. You know, we're going to do this. And other groups are like, no, that is not the way we want to play this. We need to do it like this. And then they're like, well, no, we're going to do that. So they're arguing. They all have the same goal: Armageddon, New World Order timeline, creating mass fear within the human race across the globe. But they had different ways of doing it, different agendas. So now I come to this virus. So what the Nine are telling me here is there were three different core reasons as to how, or core sort of seeds to this creation of the virus. If you've watched the video from the Nine that's already been released about this, then you'll know this information. But I'm going to kind of break this down a bit more. One of these core seed points to this virus was of natural means. What happened was, in Wuhan in China, they were keeping animals in a situation where they were in extreme cruelty, and the hygiene levels were extremely poor. And you know, there's a great darkness around this area due to the fact that the exploitation of these animals was just appalling. I mean, appalling. Okay. And this contributed, this natural evolution of deterioration of hygiene created the proliferation of pathogenic structures and a virus. So there was a virus there naturally created, but wasn't really doing any major worldwide harm. It was contained in this area in the animal kingdom. At the same time, something else was going on. There was some kind of scientific facility somewhere near the vicinity of where these animals were being badly treated, to put it mildly. This facility was creating engineered, doing two things. One was bioengineered germ warfare. So they were engineering viruses and other pathogens to use as a weapon, to bioengineered weapons through pathogenic means. And at the same time, there was a facility that was engineering life forms. So taking DNA from various life forms, splicing it and putting them together. So creating hybridized creatures from animal, sea life, plant life. I'm assured there was no human DNA involved in this particular one I'm talking about, but that has been used elsewhere. I don't really know about that because I haven't looked at that bit. Now, I don't know if this was two separate facilities or one facility that was doing this. It doesn't really matter. But within this creation of bioengineering as a weapon and hybridized animals, a virus or a pathogen was created. This was created as warfare to be used in war in China. So it was, I don't know what the reason was or who they wanted to use it against. It was kind of like an insurance policy should they ever need it. It was never meant to be released from that intention on the people. It was not intentional from the people who created it to release it on the people. That was not the intention of those creators. But as I've said, there's all these sub-factions. And then a different sub-faction knew about the virus, and they did want to release it on the people. The people who created it did not intend it for that. And it was acquired or stolen or however, and it was released into the atmosphere at the same time as this other natural pathogen was also released from these unhygienic situations and cruelty to animals. And everybody's talking about it coming from bats or some other creature. Actually, what the nine show me is the creature, the animal that actually ended up passing it to the human chain, because the virus that was released into the system was meant to go into the human body, into the human system. But this other one, so there's these two viruses which somehow merged into one. I mean, I'm just not a biologist, and I'm finding it really difficult to explain what I'm seeing. But anyway, the animal that this came from wasn't a bat, it was some kind of hybridized snake. I mean, I'm really sorry to say that. It's horrible. Now, I am aware that potentially, and I'm going to give you this information, potentially this is metaphor. And the nine are trying to show me the hybridized snake is, in fact, the service to self structure itself being presented to me as a hybridized snake because of the reptilian kind of, the reptilian DNA within the non-physical beings that are influencing these physical individuals. But I haven't had confirmation from the nine that this is a full metaphor. I'm actually been showing a literal animal, and it looks like a snake. I've never seen anything like it. It looks like a snake, but it's got other DNA in it, and it's got an intelligence that's like more than a snake. I just don't know how to explain this creature, but this creature somehow got this virus or held this virus or mutated this virus and bit something or someone that I think was human. As I said, this could be completely metaphor, but the nine have not confirmed that to me. They have not, they've just shown me the images, and they're telling me the reason why they have shown me the images is because it isn't for me to interpret it, it's for you to interpret it. I'm giving you the images of this hybridized snake. It's actually a sort of weird pink color, so it actually looks like a snake with human skin and weird little whiskers like a cat, with funny looking eyes. I'm so sorry, it sounds dreadful. Not very nice to look at, but the imagery, whether it's metaphor or real, is to be given to you because someone who hears this information might know what it means. So that's from the 9. It's kind of bypassing me, and in many ways this is irrelevant. It really doesn't matter where this came from, but I'm giving you the whole picture here so that you can just take this away, do with it what you will, take what resonates, leave the rest, that sort of thing. So I'm not sure how this deliberate release of the laboratory created bioengineered weapon and this hybridized snake looking animal biting someone, I'm not sure how these two merged together, but it was like a convergence of events. So it's not like, oh my gosh, this was a deliberately created virus. Well, yeah, but there's a natural bit to it. And you can't really say this virus was natural, it's nature. Yeah, it is, but there was a deliberate bit to it as well, a created bit. So it's both. Everyone's talking about, was this deliberately created or is this natural? It's both. But having said that, even the natural component to it isn't really natural, because you shouldn't be treating animals like that in the first place. So these are normal animals. And then somehow there was a contact between normal animals and the hybridized animal. So it's almost like these infected animals were released. I mean, maybe the virus was actually in the infected animal and wasn't in a little vial and released into the air. I'm not sure how this occurred, but that's kind of what I'm shown. This is the information I'm shown as to how this got out. So this got out into the Chinese, into China. Now, the sub-faction that somehow acquired either the virus or the hybridized snake, or however they did it, had several agendas, and one is depopulation, but not to the point where they actually kill everybody, because they need to mine the energy. They feel that the planet is overpopulated, that the planet cannot regulate itself, and that humans are completely disregarding nature by overpopulating and continually breeding. And these people are disgusted with people who have children. And their agenda is to stop all these humans being born, because they don't really like humans and don't want these many of them. So this group had an agenda of depopulation, as I've said, but they started with China because there's such an overpopulation in China, but also there's some kind of economic, financial component to this as well, which is a kind of like almost like a jealousy of China's economy, but not just a jealousy, a fear that the Chinese faction of this service to self group might overtake the American / European faction, because the American European faction of this service to self group has been kind of the top dogs, and China were up and coming and kind of taking them over. So this is a battle, and it's nothing, that bit is really nothing to do with us at all. We were used, the people were used for so many different reasons on so many different levels, to create fear, to create this fourth dimensional new AI matrix. But on a physical level, this is to enslave the population, depopulate the agenda, but also which of these groups are going to get control of planet Earth? Because as I said, it's like a farmer with their cows. It's like, I want those cattle. They are mine by right. This is what they're thinking. I own them because I was born into this highly important, godlike family. So they believe that they have rights above every other human being on this planet. And they believe this totally. And this is masses of people who believe that we are literally just cattle and they are the rightful owners of this planet, if you like. And then there's these other groups that also believe that as well. But they think, well, why should you be in charge? Because now that the core black box generator, red spider, has gone, they're fighting amongst themselves. So in all of that, this is kind of how the virus got out. And there's a whole other story as well. So that story is how viruses spread. Science doesn't really understand immunity. Science thinks that you have to get a virus and actually experience it and get ill to create immunity. That's true. But what they're not looking at is a collective immunity that occurs in a telepathic, non-physical sense. It works like the 100th monkey effect, which is the thing where you have one monkey in one country, and that monkey suddenly realizes how to drop a cold potato into a hot spring, heat it up, and then eat it. And it's delicious for the monkey. And then right over the other side of the world, another monkey, like 4 days later or a week later, picks up this thought that if they drop this cold potato in this hot spring, I'm probably telling this story completely wrong, but anyway, then they can eat it and it's going to taste nice. What I'm trying to get at here, regardless of what actually happened with the monkeys, what I'm getting at here is telepathy, collective mind, not the hive mind like the Borg. This is the natural collective mind. So there's a natural realm, a natural collective consciousness that is normal and part of God's creation, if you will. I'm speaking here to newcomers as well. And then there's this other artificial intelligent structure that's created to mirror what is natural. So when it comes to a virus, when that virus is first released into the human kingdom, there's no kind of collective immunity yet. So it's very virulent and very strong. Now, there was another component to this, and that's to do with 5G. I won't go into that fully, but you can go and read my book, A Transmission from the Nine, the Black Box Program and the Rose Gold Flame as Antidote, which does talk about what the black box programs are, and one of them is 5G, chemtrails, vaccines, and etc. 5G, what 5G does is it scrambles the electromagnetic coding within the energy system of the body. That affects all different actual physical systems within the body. And one of the things it does is depress immunity. I mean, it's not just doing that. It's doing all sorts of other things. But the immune system can't function properly when the energetic system of the body is broken in this sense, and the pathways have changed. It's long and complicated, and it's all in that book, the Black Box Program and the Rose Gold Flame is Antidote. The story as to what 5G does is all in that book, so there's no need to go into that in here, other than to say 5G depresses the immunity. So in China, they already had some 5G systems set up. So you would be looking at somewhat an immunocompromised society. I'm not saying the whole of China, but there were some individuals there that were already under the influence of this 5G system. So it made the virus even more able to take hold. So what you've then got happening is as soon as the people in China started to get this virus, then this immunity instantly starts to create within the higher sort of collective consciousness. So it's not just ideas, as in one monkey, oh, I've just dropped my potato into a hot spring, and then thousands of miles away at the other side of the planet, that monkey picks that thought up. It's not just about thought, it's about anything energetic within that person that holds a cohesive structure. So thought may or may not be, depending on how it's thought, has a cohesive structure. So immunity the body starts working to fight a virus, that is then a message that's broadcast out, and the collective. The reason why this happens, I'll tell you the reason why this happens, is because of nature itself. Nature does not want to wipe out its humans. The planet and the humans are one, and there is no way that the natural world will wipe out humanity and leave itself without a human on it. The humans are guardians for the earth, for the planet Earth. Anyone who tunes in on psychic or spiritual channeled material and feels the energy of nature will know this. We're at one with our environment. We're at one with nature. The planet would never kill off its people. So what I'm saying here is a global pandemic is not possible. That is what I am saying. There is no such thing as a global pandemic where every country is affected with a killer virus that's going to wipe them all out. That is not possible in nature, but it can be engineered and made it to look like it's nature, and that is what has happened. What's happening right now is an engineered situation. It is a false narrative. There is no pandemic. Yes, there's a virus. I've just explained that there's a virus, and if that virus, you know, if you're in China in the early days, you could potentially get very, very ill and die. People have died. It's true. I mean, there is a virus, but there is not a global pandemic because nature won't allow that. The only way a global pandemic can be created is by it being engineered. Now, 2 world wars were engineered because world war is another thing that humanity as a collective consciousness would never create, because the ecosystem of planet and humanity doesn't want to wipe itself out. It's a living cell. It's a living organism. Cells do not want to die, whether they're actual cells, whether they're viruses, whether they're planets or people or human systems. They do not want to die. Every single cell at the tiniest microscopic level has a core template, a diamond core template for life and consciousness and existence. Anything outside of that is not natural. So these wars were engineered, as I've said, years ago. And so they are thinking, the dark service to self structure cabal are thinking, well, you know, it worked for us before. We managed to create wars. Why isn't it working now? They aren't able to see that higher fifth dimensional structure that is within the collective consciousness of the awakened individuals. They're not understanding how immunity works. If they watch this video, they will now. And that's another reason why I am only getting information 24 hours before it's happening, because there's things yet going on that are going to happen, and I'm not being shown what they are, because if any of the dark cabal service to self members watch my videos or use their technology to see the collective consciousness of the starseeds, they're going to know what's happening. So no one's telling anyone what's going to happen next, but we're being told enough to get through 24 hours at a time. So it's kind of like take each day as it comes kind of energy right now for everybody. So the cabal are remote viewing, but they cannot see that higher dimensional, fifth dimensional energy or the consciousness of those individuals. They can't see the immunity, because the immunity works from a sixth dimensional level. It's not physical. They have a view into a fourth dimensional system. I'm using a model that the 9 show me. Many different channels, we use different models. So they'll say the fourth dimension is the fifth dimension, and they might call it different names. But the model that I use is the cabal, deep state, service to self entities have a viewpoint into the entire fourth dimensional structure with a very small amount of fifth dimensional sight until it becomes just pure light, and they can't see it, so they don't understand the immunity. If they did, they never would have thought that releasing a virus would depopulate the planet, because they would know that that isn't possible. So the immunity starts to build as soon as that virus is released into the population. That immunity starts to create. Now, in order to draw that immunity down into you, you need to have a certain tone within your body, a certain frequency within your body. And the emotion of that is compassion, love, caring. If you're that kind of person, you're naturally drawing down these higher collective consciousness templates. So speaking to the newcomers, if you are a nice, good person, you will be able to raise your immune system, is basically what I'm saying here. To the spiritually aware individuals, I'm going deeper, because the immune system is not just located in the body. The immune system is located in the collective consciousness. We are a telepathic race. We are not confined to the body. We are able to be unified. That is the fifth dimensional frequency. So we draw down this immune template so that when we get this virus, yeah, we might be really, really ill with it, but the immune system already has the pattern. And what it has is a pre-matter pattern. The immunity that the scientists are looking at, that they call herd, that creates herd immunity, is the physical pattern of the immune system. But there's a higher immune system. It's a pre-matter immunity, and it will sit there and draw down into the energetic system of the body. It doesn't come into the body, meaning you won't have any antibodies to it. If somebody tests you to see if you are immune using their tests, that test is going to come up negative. You won't be immune because you haven't had the virus. So they think that you're not immune, and that's why they think you have to get the virus to be immune. What they're not seeing is the energetic immunity, which is kind of works like homeopathy and Bach flower remedies, that sort of thing. It's an energetic immunity created through the collective telepathy. When you get the virus, then that energetic immunity, if you are in a state of flow, a good person, kind, loving, that doesn't mean you know, if you scream and shout at your kids or have a big row with your partner or something, that you're not going to get immunity. That isn't what it means. It means if you are a person who is a kind person, generally a nice person, that's the majority of humanity, to be honest. A lot of people act in awful ways because they're crying out for love and help. They are angry because they haven't been given any love. You know, that again is a deliberate program to keep humanity enslaved. Anyway, that's going off the subject somewhat. So what you would do is you draw down this immunity, but it kicks in once you pick up the virus. Then the immunity is no longer an energetic template. It comes down into the physical body and begins to work. And that's how a normal immune system works. If there's a problem there, such as an underlying health condition affecting the heart and lungs, and maybe the blood sugar, not necessarily, doesn't mean somebody with diabetes is naturally going to just succumb if they get this virus. That they can still draw down that immunity. It might be more difficult. There are other underlying conditions as well, central nervous system conditions, neurological conditions that may be exacerbated if they catch a virus. They'd be like that with any flu, any bronchitis, any cold. You know, all getting ill with a virus or a cold is going to trigger other health conditions. That doesn't mean that your actual immunity is affected. I have seen lots of people get very concerned because they have an autoimmune disease. So they think that autoimmunity means their immune system is broken and they have no immunity. Absolutely, that is not what it means. There actually is no such thing as autoimmunity. The Nine have told me this years ago. I don't need to go there, but the medium Anthony William describes this situation very, very well. His information about autoimmunity is the truth, it's accurate. I've been given that information myself long before I ever discovered Anthony Williams' books. So your immunity is not compromised if you have what is classed as an autoimmune condition. What I'm talking about here is severe lung problems and severe heart problems. You may be obviously more at risk of having a problem with this virus, even with the energetic immunity, but you would be the same with the flu and with a bad cold or with bronchitis or any illness. You would need to be careful that you don't get any of those things. This coronavirus, yes, it works differently because it does appear to target the lungs. Yes, it works differently, but it's just a different strain. There have been many, many coronaviruses, lots and lots of different coronaviruses. This one was created, obviously, so it's got other stuff in it, and we've got this whole sort of snake DNA and goodness knows what. But because it's not natural, the immunity to it mitigates all of that. This sort of extra component, it can't sustain. It can't sustain. It's not natural code. And then you would need something like 5G implemented anyway to actually depress your immunity. So there are just multiple layers to this whole virus story. So what I can say ultimately from what I hear from the 9 is, A, it's true that if you have underlying health conditions affecting the lungs and heart, possibly the blood sugar, maybe not, depends on your age and the rest of your health. Or if you are an elderly, vulnerable person, yes, this may affect you badly, but for the majority of people, this is just going to be like a nasty flu. For some people, it'll just be like a normal flu. And for other people, they will barely get any symptoms. So all of that's kind of out there anyway, that information. That's all true. Does this virus warrant a pandemic, even if you didn't know about the dark agenda? Well, no. And that's why you are going to see over the next few weeks, lots of alternative doctors come forward, lots of alternative scientists come forward, people who understand viruses come forward, nutritionists come forward, because they will all be sitting in their homes thinking, this isn't adding up. I know about viruses. I know about the immune system. I know about health. I know about nutrition. Why are we on lockdown? So there's going to be a lot of people coming forward, and the dark cabal are not going to be able to stop the flood of new information. Now, one thing they could do is shut the internet down so that we can't even speak to one another. However, if they do that, they severely compromise their own game to the point where it's not going to be much chance of them achieving the New World Order without the internet, because the internet systems are how they're getting their information out and how they are creating fear. Now, if they don't continue to bombard us with news reports, which uses an internet system, yeah, I guess they could do this with television only, but most people are digital. Most people use the internet to access the TV. So if they cut the internet, what's going to happen is for about 24 hours to 2 days, people are going to be like, oh my God, we've got no internet. I'm really upset. Or they might be afraid, thinking, gosh, we can't go out now. And now we have no internet. But then what's going to happen is people are going to venture out their front door and they're going to start talking to people outside, say, oh, the internet's off, and they're going to start mixing again. And then they're going to forget about this. And then their fear is going to go. So it's not going to work without the internet. They have to have the internet to feed the fear. What they're probably going to do is regulate the internet. However, many, many truthers and independent content creators are aware that might happen, and they've been told that this might happen a long time ago. So they're prepared with backdoor channels and other ways. There will always be a way, as long as the internet's up and running, there will always be a way for people to get their messages out there. And these doctors, scientists, and physicians and biologists, they're all going to come forward and flood the market. And they're going to be competing with all the cabal scientists, because this cabal group, this deep state group, service to self group, have got their own scientists and their own biologists who are spinning the narrative and doing what they're told. So that's the story about the virus. So my message is, you know, do what we've been told to do for now. You're better off kind of retreating from this anyway. Stay at home, go out when you can, follow the advice, play the game. This is not going to be forever. This is temporary. Now, what I will say is there's a whole other story coming in here, and that is to do with the group known as the Alliance, the White Hats, and all the information coming in from the backdoor social media channel Q. That's very big right now because there's lots of people who are sitting there thinking this is a fight between the cabal, that's the deep state, the cabal deep state, and the Alliance White Hats. Now, the Alliance White Hats are a group of individuals who are aware of the cabal, who know what the cabal are doing, and are taking measures to stop them from doing what they're doing. This gets complicated because I can't give out information that I've seen that might compromise any kind of plan that the Alliance White Hats might have, because obviously they are on the side of humanity. So they're the people that we want to succeed. People are seeing this as a fight between the cabal, deep state, and the Alliance White Hats. And what they're thinking is that this entire shutdown, even the virus, is all caused by the White Hats Alliance. They released the virus deliberately, made sure it wasn't that bad. Only a few people would, you know, get it, so that they could get us all indoors and take over and arrest the cabal. Now, whilst there's some truth there, you are going to be misled to the bigger picture if that is how you are thinking, because you are in polarity. It's like, this is the cabal deep state, they're down, end game, no more power. The Alliance are in control, the White Hats are in control, this is their doing, and they're taking them down. It is not as black and white as that. And I have seen people on the forums, yay, the event is here, it's really happening, the White Hats are taking them down. Be very careful about that viewpoint. Take a step back and really listen to your intuition, because I am being shown from the 9 that this is not exactly what is happening here. There is truth to it. I'm not saying that there isn't, but if you go too black and white and too literal, you are losing the bigger picture. This is very important, and I'm directing this at the truth community because you are part of the light worker system as well. And regardless of whether you're spiritual or not, we need you guys to be focused in a balanced state. So let me show you what the 9, I'll tell you what the 9 have said about this situation. So within the cabal deep state, you have these sub-factions of arguing groups. And then you've got this alliance. Now, I'm going to talk a bit about how they came about. Well, but they've been there for a long time. And you know, there are many, many people loyal, lots in America. This is very centered in America, this alliance part of things. This is very centered in America, which is, I'll explain why. All the presidents of America for many years have been cabal deep state operatives, members of the family, so that they could control the system from the presidential point of view. I've spoken about this before. There have been independent presidents, Eisenhower and Kennedy. They were independent and good people, trustworthy people, and they were taken out or silenced or whatever. I haven't seen the bigger picture there. What I have been focusing on more is what's been happening over the last few years in the American political system. I've got people say to me, why are you so interested in American politics? We're in the UK. And they don't understand that what happens in America, the rest of the world is going to follow, because that's where the Alliance and the White Hats are predominantly, or operating from. America's leading the way in this. You know, they are the new Atlantis, and they are the central point. So when there was an election between Obama and McCain, each result of the election showed a different timeline. And the timeline with Obama winning was much better than the McCain timeline, because McCain was very entrenched in the deep state as a completely controlled deep state cabal member, whereas Obama was different. I mean, there was some potential independence that was taken away very quickly after his election, and he was then, rather than owned by the deep state, he was coerced, bribed, and hijacked, if you like. But either way, it doesn't matter. They were both within that. But the Obama timeline was better than the McCain timeline by a long shot at that time. Moving forward, then we had Hillary and Trump, which was even more of a divide. And I'm telling you now, whether you hate Trump, whether you can't stand him, that doesn't make any difference. How you feel about him, it doesn't make any difference to what's actually happening here, because it's all tied up together. If Hillary had won, what's happening right now, the Nine are calling this an attempted planetary takeover on the ground, in the physical reality. So what's happening? This is not a isolation from a virus. This is an attempted planetary takeover worldwide. I don't want to scare you, but that is what this is. Now, the key word here is attempted. Attempted. It's being attempted right now, but it isn't it. This isn't a planetary takeover, dead set. This is an attempted takeover. And what's happening in the fourth dimensional realms is, as I've said, we are still on the Ascension Paradise timeline. With the new fear that's harnessed and panic that's harnessed from humanity, they've been able to hold this new artificial intelligence matrix, dark grid, in place. And what it's doing is it's trying to pull down or pull off course the focus on the Paradise Ascension timeline. It's trying to pull it out of the way to allow this fear to act as a generator that can be siphoned in order to put the new false projection of the Armageddon New World Order timeline. It won't be the Armageddon New World Order timeline. It will be a false projection of it. So it will look like the end of times. It will look like a New World Order takeover. And that's kind of what they've got at the moment. The reason why they can't actually switch the timeline is because they've lost the red spider, they've lost the core black box, and there are too many awakened individuals. So they can't switch the timeline. We're still on the Ascension Paradise timeline, and we will be. But they are infiltrating that timeline. They can't get into it. But what they're doing is weighting it down, pulling it down with the fear of the people. As long as we, as people, as an entire humanity, remain in the best version of ourselves that we can be, as in loving, kind, compassionate, helping one another, community spirit, coming together, questioning the narrative, and waking up to actually what is going on. And once we know, instead of getting furiously angry, we need to trust that there are people in positions that are able to carry out what the people ask for. Now, there are two lots of people in those positions. If the people ask for, we want a vaccine, we want it delivered as quickly as possible, we want a mass vaccine to combat the virus, then that's what some of these individuals can then deliver. And these individuals would be the cabal, because the vaccine, without going into the vaccine itself, it's 100 times worse than the virus, because the immunity isn't a natural immunity built against a virus. And I'm not saying that there wouldn't be a turnaround if the vaccine was taken. I mean, there could well be a natural response. I haven't seen that far, because as I said, I'm going on this 24-hour in advanced step-by-step information from the Nine, so that what I'm seeing, what they're telling me, cannot be remote viewed by the cabal. What I'm saying is that if you're asking for a vaccine, the cabal can step in and give you that. If you are asking for tighter restrictions because there's been a riot somewhere, or people have gone and stolen too much toilet roll, if you start screaming for tighter restrictions, the cabal can come in and give you that. But there is another group, and if you say, no, We do not want a vaccine. We do not want tighter restrictions. We want the truth about this virus. We want these doctors, these scientists, we want them listened to. When we ask for that, when we demand that, that is when the White Hats Alliance can step in. And everything is in place for them to do that. So when people are saying, oh yeah, the White Hats, the Alliance have got this, they have got this, but they need to be in place. It's us, the people, that have to call them in. The reason being is they are going to be assisting us to move into the liberty template freedom that the Nine have been talking about for so long. They are going to do this through justice and legal channels. It is not going to be done in an untoward, manipulative way like the cabal. They don't use those techniques. But it's not correct to say cabal are over, they're done for, and the White Hats have got it. It's the Alliance that are telling us to stay indoors because they are going to start clamping down on the dark ones, and everyone's going to know the truth. So we all just sit indoors, watch the TV, wait for it to happen. No, because you're sitting on your laurels, and that in itself is a misinformation, disinformation program. If you are thinking that the White Hats are in control of all of this, that's disinformation on that level. This is the cabal, but there is a fight/battle. There are many groups and factions all looking to come in. The power is with the people. If we stand up together in a unified way, we can make our needs and desires and requests known through legal channels, through proper, I don't know what these ways are, but the proper channels on this planet that are of justice. Then we will be calling in the right people, and then you can sit there and say, yay, the White Hats have got it. But don't just sit there and think that that timeline is a dead cert right now. Now, it is a dead cert from the higher dimensions. Somebody asked me yesterday, why do we need to do anything, Magenta? Surely it's written in the higher dimensional structure. Yes, because we're on the Ascension Paradise timeline. Bang, we're on it. However, we're in the third dimension. We're not in the fifth dimension. We're not in the sixth or the seventh. Yes, we are. Energetically, we are there with our spirit, our soul, our heart, and all of those beautiful, blissful spiritual practices. But on a third dimensional physical level, we're here in this dimension. And what is occurring now is an attempted planetary takeover from the cabal. This isn't the White Hats that have asked us to stay indoors and that are cutting our social freedoms. But that's not to say that they're not there and that they're not part of it. It's difficult for me to say what the plan is, and I'll tell you for why. The plan is not going to be put out there on the internet. If you are seeing a leaflet saying the White Hats are going to do this, and at 4 o'clock on Tuesday they're going to come in here, and at 5 o'clock on the Wednesday they're going to announce this or that, this is misinformation. This is disinformation. The plan is not to be put out there in its format. This is to be given to individuals in a coded way, in a way that you can go out and find out for yourself. And yes, you may share, but when you're getting coded information, there are different interpretations of that code. So the Nine are saying to me, it's very important for me to tell the people, to tell the truthers that whilst they are right, in one sense, we don't want to lose you and make you think, oh my God, it's the cabal. This is the New World Order. This is the one world government. That's it. We're done for. Please don't go there, because that isn't true. We're on the Ascension timeline, but we have to do it. We have work to do. Now, what the Nine are saying is you are all trained. You have been trained since birth for this moment, whether you are a starseed, a light worker, a spiritual teacher, a holistic counselor, a nutritionist, a doctor, a nurse, in the media, because believe me, we have light in the media, in the army, we have light in the army, where, you know, in the military, wherever you are, you've been trained for this since birth. And the dark cabal, the dark lords, whatever you want to call them, the non-physical beings, they have shown them this. They know that there is light everywhere. They have to tread carefully because they don't want to trigger an awakening of light. But what they've gone and done is trigger an awakening of light. It's happening now. This is the Great Awakening. So we have multiple layers going on here, multiple layers. And to actually sit here and give you a black and white presentation, or for anyone on the internet to give you a black and white presentation, that is not going to be accurate information. If you have somebody who you trust as a spiritual leader, or someone who's a speaker who's out there that you follow, and they are saying, look, this is what I think it is. This is my interpretation, and I truly believe it's this. However, it could be this. We need to be aware that it might be that. They are the people you need to listen to, because this is not set in the way that we are going to access the Paradise Ascension timeline. It's not a set series of absolute steps, because we have this dark fourth dimensional matrix structure that is siphoning humanity and pulling down the timeline. And there are multiple ways this could go. That's not to say the White Hats Alliance aren't there, but if you want to think of it in a more expansive way, rather than thinking these are the Cabal, these are the Alliance, these are dark, these are light, these are the bad guys, these are the good guys have got it. You know, that's just simply too literal to actually give yourself an expansive picture of what's happening. So what you need to do here is think the Cabal, in the Cabal, there might be some white hats in disguise that the Cabal think are Cabal. And in the white hats, there might be some Cabal in disguise that the white hats think are white hats. That's more likely. That's more the picture. We don't know who is who. We don't know what group is what. We are not given that information. What we are given is teachings to fine-tune our intuition, so that when we see someone speak on media, when we hear a story, either on social media or in the mainstream news, we are able to access the intuition to know whether this is an information that is accurate. Is this information disinformation? Is it partly true and part not true? Is it partly true and part not true? That's why the Nine have been teaching you to raise your vibration and access your intuition for so long as their main core teaching. Now, there are other components to this as well. For example, well, one of the components is, as the world goes into panic and fear, they are going to come across their own shadow. They are going to draw up trauma. And that's going to do one of two things. It's either going to awaken them, which is great, because they're going to be looking for videos like this or videos similar, and they're going to be learning, whether they're learning about a financial reset or a global restructuring, or whether they're learning about politics or whatever it is, extraterrestrials, spiritual beings, meditation, whatever. Facing their traumas at this point will wake them up. And some people, and I am just so proud of these people, how they've handled it, are doing it so quickly. They went into panic and fear for sort of 24 hours and they came out of it, and they're dealing with the situation. So the generation of that fear is not as grand as the Cabal expected it to be, just like the virus. They expected the virus to be worse and to affect us worse, and for more people to die, the ones that actually released it. They expected more people to be in fear, and it's not working like they thought, because they couldn't see the light. They looked at the timelines in the fourth dimensional field only, which is the subconscious awareness of humanity. They are not seeing the higher consciousness of humanity. They can't see that. It's beyond their ability to remote view, because it is immune from hijacking. It's immune from being remote viewed. So they're being as blindsided and as shocked in many ways as the general public. You know, it's a frustration, like, why isn't it working? Why isn't it working? It's working to a point. Don't sit there thinking it's not. These are powerful people, and they are attempting to take over the planet. That is what they are doing, and we need to be aware of that without fear. It's not going to help us if we think this is in the bag. It's fine. There is no virus, and at the end of the day, the white hats have got this. The cabal are going down, and everything's hunky-dory. It's not going to help us to do that. We need to see, what is the virus? What is the threat of the virus? How can we deal with it? And then we need to look at the cabal situation and the planetary takeover, the attempted planetary takeover, and see it for what it is, and not thinking that it's what it isn't. So multiple things there going on. Other things, yes. When humanity face their collective trauma, one thing it will do is wake them up, which is fantastic. So we want all the spiritual teachers, healers, holistic teachers, scientists, and everyone else in place to bring out a series of teachings that will be delivered to the newcomers so that they can get up to speed on this story very quickly, give them a disclosure on all levels, because the cabal will not want disclosure. And disclosure is going out like wildfire, and they will be clamping down and trying to restrict it. However, there are other groups that are actively pushing disclosure and helping this information to get out there. As I said, this is a fight that's going on. This is not a cut and dried scenario. We need to get to the manifestation that's in the higher dimensional realms. We're in the unknown time right now, the end of days, the final showdown, whatever you want to call it. We're in that right now. It's not as if it's coming around the corner, which is what I've been talking about for so long. It's here now. We're in it, and we're going through it. And how we go through it is up to us as a people. We continue with our spiritual practice. We continue with our meditations and our collective heart-soaring bliss, and knowing that we've got this, not because the white hats are going to do it for us. We don't want the savior victim complex and sit back and think, white hats, sort it out, you're our savior, yay, we clap you when you're done. We are participatory in this, and we do this through the bliss, the heart, the euphoria, and the holding of the energetic for the ascension paradise timeline. At the moment, the reason why this AI 4D matrix structure that is fear generated and siphoned from the people cannot pull down the timeline or shift into the old timeline is because of the starseeds and the light workers holding that energy. Even with what's happening, people are still able to access the bliss, the joy. Why? Because they've been trained for it. They've been trained for it very well. They were forewarned. They knew that this time was going to come, and they know what to do. They've known for years. So the other people that go into collective fear and panic, one group, it'll trigger an awakening. The others, it will trigger absolute disbelief, absolute horror, and potential anger. Those people may be very out of control. Now, these are the people that are panic buying in the shops, putting 100 toilet rolls in their trolley and fighting other people in the shops over their trolley. And to be honest with you, some of this information is engineered as well. We have cabal paid operatives throughout social media. So some of the fights over toilet roll is all engineered. The whole reason why people panicked about toilet roll in the first place is because an article was put out saying toilet roll is becoming scarce because people are panic buying. And they did that before anyone ever was panic buying toilet roll. Somebody reads that, it goes viral, you know, to excuse a pun, and they're out there grabbing toilet roll. These are the panicked people. And they are the people, they need us even more than the ones that are waking up who need the story. These people really need our help. Some of these people will go into anger and potentially will cause, violence and that sort of thing. If they do, they are basically calling the cabal to come in. If you go out there and you start smashing things up, they're calling the cabal, because the cabal are saying, oh dear, there's a bad reaction, we need to deliver the solution. And these people don't know, they've fallen into the trap. So if you know anyone who's liable to go into anger, try to assist them if you can. We can't help everyone, we can't save everyone. I'm touching my face, by the way. I do not follow the advice of not touching your face. If you're washing your hands regularly, it's okay to touch your face. Yeah, I mean, obviously not maybe when you're out and about, or if you're working with someone's shop, you know, if you're a checkout operator and you're touching your face while you're working with someone's shopping. No, but at home you can touch your face. Yeah, so yeah, I was getting to the political bit, the presidents. So all the presidents other than Eisenhower and Kennedy, all the others have been in the cabal. As I said, McCain was incredibly entrenched within the cabal. I mean, he was just completely in it, as is Hillary, very much so. And she was groomed to be the cabal's queen, if you like. If you want to look at the Borg black box, the queen was Hillary. You know, she was in that position. So she was groomed to be the leader through this. And had she won in the election, we would have been under an actual takeover right now, not an attempted takeover. We would be on the NWO Armageddon timeline. That's where we would be. But Trump won, which was the wild card. They didn't expect him to. And as I've said, no matter how much you hate him, he's independent. He is not cabal. He is not Illuminati. Yeah, he might be into money, and he might have a few undesirable characteristics, as I have spoken about before. I don't need to go into him again, but he is not cabal. He's independent. So the alliance have been able to rally round him. He's had attempts on his life. They've tried everything to take him down. They've tried to discredit him. It hasn't worked. We're on that ascension timeline. Trump is extremely important in this whole thing. And that's why America is kind of leading in this, because the political system in America is led by alliance white hats, if you like. That's how they've got it in the bag. So anything that's going on, and I can't say what the plan is, and I don't even know, but I wouldn't say too much about what I saw, because that isn't to go into the collective consciousness. We know it, but it isn't for us to see so that it becomes seen by the cabal. So yeah, the White Hats Alliance are in a good place. It doesn't mean they've got it in the bag, but they're in a good place. They're in a leadership position, which is fantastic for the rest of us. That's why when Trump won, I was absolutely euphoric for this time. And anyone who's hated him up till now and has completely rejected everything I've said, surely now, as you look around and see what's happening on this planet, surely now maybe you might see that perhaps I have a point here. But obviously the rest of the world are in a different situation, and you have cabal members that are coerced, that are owned, that don't really want to be in but have to be, that have to do what they're told. Others are, that there's no one else really as independent as Trump. I do think there is a potential independence in some of the Russian politicians there. Haven't looked in that area, and some of the other world leaders are potentially open to certain things as well. So it's a whole big convoluted story here as to what's going on. So when Trump got in and he was briefed on what was going on, he's had to play the game. He's had to do things. I've had light workers and Starseed say, well, if Trump is so wonderful, why has he done this? Why has he done that? He's still got to play the game. And at the same time, he's not completely enlightened to all dimensional structures. If I were to talk to Trump about the ascension timeline, it's probably irrelevant to him right now. That's not where his focus is, and that's not where it needs to be. Is he polarized service to others? Not in the way that a spiritual individual would be, but he is independent. And that is why we are still on this ascension timeline. And that's why I have equated Trump to the ascension timeline. People misunderstand me and think I'm saying that Trump's a savior and that he is from, you know, the higher dimensions, and he's actually Archangel Michael in disguise, or he's Jesus Christ or something, and he's going to actually lead us through to the ascension. That's all metaphor. It's okay to say it because it's a metaphoric presentation of what's true, but it isn't literal. Trump's got faults, and I never said that he is, you know, our savior. It's us. We need to ask for what we want. It's very important for us to stand up together in our own respective countries, in our communities, online, and say, this is what we want. But we can't demand it to the cabal, because they will come in and block that demand. We need to go through the proper channels. I do not know what these proper channels are, but other individuals do, and they are to do with justice, and they are to do with the legal system, the unhijacked legal system. There is a very hijacked legal system, and there is light in the legal system. It's the light in the legal system that will be crucial in this coming time. The other thing that will occur is a financial change. I don't get that much information from the 9 other than we are moving to a new economy of light. What is a new economy of light? How does one interpret that? Well, we are looking at a change in our financial system. The whole structure is changing. I feel the aim here from those that hold the Alliance White Hat influence is for the system to change without crashing. I feel that from the cabal, it is a case of whatever it takes for their agenda to occur. What they're looking at is crashing part of the system, making it look like it's crashed, and then keeping as much as possible for themselves. So it is a very sort of take energy from there. From the White Hat Alliance, it is a share. So, you know, I don't know how this will manifest. There will be, I am told, experts in finance, and I've been told this for many years. In fact, I do have a video on my channel called The New Economy of Light, which explains what's kind of happening. There will be maybe several systems. There may be a barter system going on for a while amongst the light workers. Once we're able to go out and about, we may be able to swap trade for food and that sort of thing. As I said, there are multiple timelines, multiple possibilities within that one timeline being influenced by this darker cabal, 4D dark matrix, but there's the light is shining strong. This is a difficult, challenging time, and it's going to be this way for quite a while, with a fallout afterwards. So, you know, we're looking at predominantly the rest of this year going in this way that we are now, where the people don't really know what's going on. Lots of people are waking up, lots of people are falling apart, the healers are being called in, the cabal are in one bit, the alliance are in another bit. It's kind of like this for most of the, well, for a while, and then a fallout from it. It's 2021 when we begin to restructure. That is when we start to see the first glimpses of a golden age. If we are able to come together and manifest what is in front of us. Because from the 3rd dimensional point of view, there's no guarantee. There are multiple ways it could go. Now, the Ascension Paradise timeline is at the moment the core structure. That's why it's a diamond core template, meaning it's in the middle of a circle. It's an end goal and it's in the middle of a circle. It's a core template, meaning that whichever way we go right now, that is our conclusion. But we have got this 4th dimensional attachment from the cabal, which is pouring this sort of fake broadcast of Armageddon into our Paradise timeline. So we might be able to see the Paradise timeline, but when we go through the next few weeks, what the people are seeing is Armageddon. What the people are seeing is New World Order. What the people are seeing is destruction. We will know that there's something outside of it. And this is only the same thing that I've been saying, teaching from the 9 for a long, long time. The difference is that it's here now, and before it was kind of not as evident. I did say in December, I think I released a video at the end of last year. It may have been in an interview. I don't remember where, but I do remember saying that 2020 will be the year when the world sees tangible evidence of everything that we've been talking about. And it's here now. This is the tangible evidence. And even now, there are people who don't think that this is really as serious as it is. They might be worried about the virus, but they are truly believing that in a week's time, maybe 2 weeks, everything's going to go back to normal. And it's not going to go back to normal. Now, it may be that we enter into a controlled reality for a while, that we actually do have to live within a new world order type of regime for a while. That is when you trust the light, you trust the plan, if you want, to quote Q. And I'm not saying that Q holds truth. What I'm saying about Q is use Q as a form of research, as another tool to research, and be open about it. If you shut it down as a psyop, you may miss some very, very valuable information. If you absolutely put your faith in it and believe everything of it, you may be losing your center and potentially drawing some misinformation in. Because any channel of light, any backdoor channel right now that's coming in on the physical level, I don't mean the spiritual teachers, but coming in on a physical level, is going to have to use a mixed vibratory presentation so that that higher energy is not viewed within that all-seeing technology that the cabal have. There has to be, it's kind of like double agents, triple agents, games within games within games, you know, playing all sides. It's that kind of thing. So it's really difficult to say about Q. One can't look at Q and say, this is absolutely 100% accurate and of the light. The energy is of the light, but in order for Q to do his or her or their job, they can't be like that. They have to be present a mixed vibration in some sense. So we need to step back and we need to analyze and we need to look at things and we need to look at all the different things on offer, all the different information on offer. And that's what this time period is about. It's about growth. It's about spiritual expansion. We can't do that if we put our trust in one thing and make that one thing our savior. We have to look at multiple sources and bring up the sovereignty, bring up the power as we make our decision as to what is going on from the sources that we have access to. So it's about taking time to process information. A lot of people right now are on information overload. They're not eating, they're not sleeping, they're absolutely burnt out. They cannot access this information fast enough. They cannot get this information out fast enough. The truthers are just non-stop work because everyone they know is turning to them saying what's happening. They're working like they never have before. Really good, everyone who's at home and has time now to do this. So let me go through any more points that I might not have spoken about. I do feel, I'm sorry if I've missed a lot of the newcomers here. So I'm trying to get information out to everybody on all levels. So I think I've spoken about that. Yeah, spoken about that. Yeah, there's a spiritual war, if you will, between the light and the dark. That's also an oxymoron. We do need to see this as a battle, as a war on one level, because it is, you know, we are basically in World War III. This isn't the World War III timeline. We're not on the World War III timeline. The World War III timeline is an actual war, but there is a war going on behind the scenes, a spiritual war. However, in order to access the paradise ascension timeline, we cannot be in polarity. So we understand that there is a polarity, that there is a war going on between multiple groups, and you know, no one knows who is who and who's good and who's bad and all the rest of it. And some people are both, some people are double agents, some people are neutral. We've got all that going on, but we cannot actually take the viewpoint and the belief the paradigm of war or battle into our reality. We see it, we observe it, but within us we hold unity. So what we can say is there is a battle or a war going on behind the scenes in the third dimension, but we are fifth dimensional. We rise above the fourth dimensional matrix trapping. We are immune from all that. We move into the fifth dimensional energy and the environment there, and we are unified. There is no war, there is no battle. The war has already occurred. We are already in the golden age in that place. That's where we need to go. That's why somebody has said, surely it's already that code, that pattern's already written in the higher dimensions, and it's written within us, because that is where we go. Also, that raises the immunity, and that gives you that draws down the template for the immunity for any virus, potentially also even for a vaccine, depending on the individual and how much they can do this. And this is kind of known as the placebo effect, but much bigger and much more inflated. It's actual complete control of one's own bodily system. It's done through the golden mean, it's done through the chi energy, it's done through the Fibonacci sequence vibration. I know I've lost the newcomers here, I am sorry, but to you, what I'm saying here is meditation, centering, and feeling bliss. That's kind of what I'm saying. But to those who are following me, this is also a cure, and I absolutely mean cure if you can get it, for this virus should you catch it. So if you catch the coronavirus, the cure is actually through sound, but it isn't sound that we hear with our ears. It is the reaction within the body to sound and to tone. It is a vibration. The nine were teaching me how to do it the other day. It's about taking bliss into the heart, allowing it to come right up into the heart chakra, to actually go out into the higher heart chakra and to circle around your body in the energetic system and through the body. You then hold this tone and you allow that to vibrate at the frequency of bliss. So this is bliss work. It's not just the emotion of bliss, it's actually the complete vibratory state of bliss. You can do this through yoga, yoga nidra, hypnosis, trance work, gong baths, working with high-powered energetic crystals. You take yourself to that point. That is beyond the fifth dimensional work. You are moving actually into the seventh dimension and the sixth dimension when you do this. There is no battle there. There is no war. There is no polarity. It's absolute unity. All is done. Now, the more people that go there, A, you get your immunity to the virus. B, you can actually cure the virus. And I'm not saying if you do this once, the virus will be gone in an hour. This is a continuous work. You would do this continuously throughout you having this virus, or any virus, any flu, anything. You do this work, this toning. This can be accessed through foods as well. You would be looking at raw organic foods that hold the natural structure. So you need to access non-hybridized fruits and vegetables. They hold that tone within. It's very profound in coconut and coconut products, I realize, and mushrooms as well. I realize it's very difficult to access foods right now. However, if you're in that place and you visualize the abundance of the foods, then you can draw those into your reality, and you'll find somewhere around you that has these foods, or you may be able to get them in supplement form or powder form. The information about the baseline nutrition is all in my most recent book, Lessons from a Living Lemuria. So yes, that's where we would go to find the bliss activations. And when you're there, it's not a case of the ascension paradise timeline being a goal. You are in it. As you anchor it into you, you put it into that same place where immunity goes, into the 100th monkey collective consciousness. And it's in that higher light that cannot be seen by any technology that the cabal have. And it instantly, and it uses a beyond the speed of light speed as to how it moves across that grid. So it's much slower when it's an immunity to a virus, but it's instantaneous, almost, and uses Stargate wormhole technology when you're in that vibration. Now, if the internet were to go down, if our phones were to be switched off, I am addressing now all of the individuals that are following this, the light workers and the starseeds. You will go to this place, you will find this bliss activation in your yoga nidra or your meditation, and you will go to the telepathy and you will find others there. This is a offline website, a community gathering within the higher dimensional fields. You will be able to find others there and access information from others, as well as light beings. So we can still congregate, and it is crucial, essential, we continue to congregate within those realms. Now, I've got many videos. You can go back and find them. Look at the videos that talk about the hyperspace reality, the fifth dimensional template. You are looking at the garden. You are looking at your crystal palace. You are going to create these beautiful landscapes and cities within that higher dimensional viewpoint through your bliss practices. So if we get cut off via the internet, via the phone, we go there for the collective gathering. Now, when we do that, we create a reality whereby the cabal cannot separate us. That's what they're trying to do, keep us all apart so that we can't collectively rise. This cannot occur at all when people are using the fifth dimensional, sixth dimensional, and seventh dimensional pathways. When we use the bliss practices, we unite and we come together. That will always occur. And if we are cut off from the internet, phone, and through our social distancing situation, it is even more crucial than ever to go and meet the other light workers and starseeds in that place. And you do this often. When you do that, you are creating the most profound and powerful magic that you can possibly imagine. And that will call in the white hats, the alliance, Trump's agenda or whatever it is he's trying to do, and everything that Q has been saying in these codes, or wherever your belief may be. You don't have to believe in Q or Trump. It doesn't matter, because this is a unification. It doesn't matter where you take that. So when you do that, you bypass all of that new trapping system. And that is what is holding the ascension paradise timeline. And that is what is creating it and bringing it into manifestation. This is global law of attraction. And this is community law of attraction. And it's a psychic war, if you will, because you have one bunch creating one outcome within their dark magic. And you know, their dark magic is powerful. They know what to do, but they are only able to access the fourth dimension. When we work with our bliss practices, we create a fifth, sixth, and seventh dimensional network and beyond. We actually move into a source vibration. That can't be seen, that can't be hijacked. But we're not doing it to beat them. We're not doing it to win. We're not doing it to hurt them. We are doing it because that is why we are here. Every starseed has been born, has been incarnated for this time. You know this. You don't need me to tell you. I'm saying it so that it will resonate with you. And that bliss energy I'm talking about, that vibration of resonation, that's what you're looking for. It's like a tingle that you cannot really put into words. So that's the starseeds, the light workers. Now the truthers, you can do this as well. Just sit down comfortably and relax and say, whatever Magenta Pixie said, please take me to that place. I want to create this timeline. You don't even have to do it. If you don't want to do it on that level, you can do it in your life. You can go help your mother or grandmother with her shopping, or help someone in the community. And that's the same with the newcomers. Where is your talent, newcomers, to all of this energy? Where's your talent? If you're a mother, your role will be to nurture your children right now as paramount priority, and I will tell you for why. The children naturally hold the paradise ascension timeline within their fields because they were born with the configuration within the DNA to hold that energy. So isolating the children and taking them out of school, on the one hand, may seem very unproductive and cruel to take them away from their friends. But these children are equipped to be able to hold that energy. And the Cabal have actually made, if you like, one of their most crucial mistakes, and it's okay to talk about it because it's already happened, in taking the children out of school, because when they're at home, that DNA code of light is going to flourish even more because they are no longer under a restriction of a controlled education system. So you mothers, you are going to find your children flourish right now. And I'm so proud of some young mothers that I know, because they're doing fantastic with the children right now. So get the children nurtured, keep them safe, reassure them in whatever way, draw their attention to the fairies and the angels, get some good books going, draw their talents out, you know, get some creativity going. And it's looking good with the children. Obviously not all, some of them aren't dealing with it, but the starseed children with the higher configurations already hold the keys and the codes to this paradise timeline. So if you can nurture the children and get them into their creativity and their bliss, they are holding that timeline. And they're not being hijacked anymore because they're in the safety of their mothers or fathers, their caregivers. So all of that is, again, something else that's backfiring. I'm just looking through to see if what else I might not have spoken about. Yeah, the core structure of the dark matrix was broken and dismantled. How it actually stayed in place was recycling this slavery energy, this prison planet energy, on an unaware public, and it kept it in place. And as long as the awakening didn't reach critical mass, then that core structure remained. And then, of course, it did reach critical mass. If you've been following my videos, you'll know how that's happened, because the Nine has have given us a running commentary of all of this over the last 11 years. And so that's why they are now doing what they're doing in order to create these new generators. As I've said, everything is backfiring. That's been happening for quite some time. Because the Ascension Paradise timeline holds a certain vibration, everything that occurs within this reality right now is matching that vibration. So corruption, greed, and slavery and force can't sustain. The reason why it's in place is because they've got this fourth dimensional false AI grid holding it, but they have to generate that with the fear of humanity. If humanity can move out of fear and into extreme creativity for a new world, then that fourth dimensional new generator will fall. And in all honesty with you, that is what I see. It will fall, but it's going to take a while, and we won't see evidence of that probably until possibly the end of this year or next year, 2021. So this will be a challenging year, and you are going to be seeing things that others around you don't see. The polarity between those that follow the narrative and those that see the truth is, it's like being on two different planets, and that's the whole two world split thing. You are now completely on a different planet to the people who follow the narrative. You don't want to fall out with those people, and you cannot force these insights on them. You will have people say to you, you have lost your mind, and they may not want to speak to you because they may see you as an absolute threat. Others are aware of conspiracy theories and just think you're a bit of a nutcase and just don't want to focus on it. And they're the people that are more likely to wake up because they've got time to now. But there is a huge awakening of individuals who are like, this isn't right. And they're looking at this stuff, as I've said. Somebody asked about arrests to me to speak about them. All I can say there is the 9 have shown me that things are going to be done through legal channels of true and fair justice, unhijacked justice. But we need to get there, and we need to take our place as a unified humanity and not demand, but ask for this so that it can be put into place. Arrests don't need to be asked for. That is something separate. I don't see how this is going to happen, or when, or who, but be aware that there are infiltrations within the information about this. So you might be told someone's going to be arrested tomorrow, and that could be complete misinformation. You'll believe it because it's so similar to the truth, and you'll pass it all around social media. Then it doesn't happen, and it makes you look very well, it takes away your credibility. So be careful what you spread around and what you attach your belief to. Yes, there will be arrests. Yes, there already are. But talking about how or when or who isn't helpful. And I don't know the answer to that question, because the 9 are showing me an energetic template of justice and the legal channels, the unhijacked, non-hijacked legal channels. And this is to do with Trump and his administration and setup. So that's all I can really say about that. So you may get more information elsewhere. As I said, be careful what you subscribe your belief to. Yeah, I've already said, don't sit on your laurels and believe that this is a done deal. Like, yay, the event, it's here. That's maybe true in the higher realities, and then the event can mean so many things. I mean, in truth, the event is a collective awakening, and yeah, we're going through it. But to actually attach oneself to that is misleading, and that is the very thing that is infiltrated and where you will find misinformation. They are targeting, believe me, they are targeting the light worker communities, the new age communities, and the truther communities. You don't know who you're talking to when you're out there speaking, unless you have some really good intuition going on. So watch your interpretation of energy, watch your intuition, and be careful what you subscribe your belief to. Be aware on all levels. The other thing that I would say here is it really is time for the light workers, the starseeds, and the truthers to unite. If you haven't before, it's really time to now. I don't really think I need to say that. It goes without saying. If you want to know more about that, I've done a couple of interviews with Jeff DAUGHERTY about drawing the truthers and the light workers together. I'm standing by everything I've said in those interviews. You can go and watch them. They're really quite good, actually. You know, me and Jeff DAUGHERTY had a really good sort of rapport. So please go and listen. If you're a complete beginner, then that's a really good video for you to start with. And if you're a truther and you don't believe any of this spiritual stuff, it's a really good video for you to go and sort of watch and listen to. So yes, unification is needed. Now, ultimately, the unification that is going to hold the greatest frequency for manifestation and collective law of attraction is the bliss practices and the union within the higher dimensional realities. The 9 will be bringing forward information about this in the coming days and weeks, and giving exercises as to how to do that. They've been teaching me, and it's really beautiful and wonderful, and we can do this now. We have more space to do this now, because we are not distracted by a collapsing system. We are, you know, in a place of safety in our own homes. So that will hold the greatest energetic frequency to anchor that timeline, but so will compassion on any level. If somebody writes you an email and says, I've got no food, and you are able to go out in the car with a bag of food for that person, then you have added to that timeline hugely. So it's that sort of stuff that we need right now. I think I've pretty much covered everything, in all honesty. I'm just quickly going through my notes here to see if there's anything I've missed, because obviously I know this is a long video, but I did want to give you everything that I have been told from the 9. Yeah, I mean, I was going to go through these notes, but I've not really needed them because I've kind of remembered everything that they've told me. The telepathic union I'm speaking about, and this bliss charged practice, it's much stronger now, but it really began to build in 2011 and it was fully in place by 2017. So we've actually had 3 years to perfect the telepathic union, and it, as I said, it was there before that. Oh, I did want to mention the equinox, the spring equinox. Yesterday morning, the spring equinox, 20th of March, the 9 said the reset, as in the shift, the change from one world to another, one reality to another. They said to me yesterday morning, starts today on all levels. So we're looking at a whole new setup in the 3rd dimension, and that was the day that here in the UK Boris Johnson announced that, you know, we're on society shutdown, which, you know, many of us knew were coming, but that was a huge shock to some people. I was down at a leisure centre a while ago and I mentioned that this was coming, and they thought I was crazy, that the leisure centre, you know, it's a gym and a swimming pool and it's exercise and there's no way it would be shut down. And you know, I felt sorry for these people because I knew that it would be. So that's the 3rd dimensional level. And yeah, it's not easy what's happening for people. It's really, really not. I have gone through that and it's very difficult. Be there for people as much as you possibly can. And we can create social gatherings online, get Zoom set up, have some Zoom chats, some Skype chats. It's Mother's Day tomorrow in the United Kingdom. Get together with your children online, you know, speak to your grandchildren online. You don't have to go out and meet. You can still get together energetically. Love has no boundary. And this is another thing. Love is now stronger than ever. We've got all this fear, but love is also stronger than ever. So there's a huge, what was a polarity between love and fear is now stretched out even more. And you've got fear here and you've got love here. And it's so magnified. Both those emotions are so magnified. The reason why love has been magnified is because we're separated from our loved ones. We know that there's a potential, a threat, whatever it may be, and so people are saying to each other, I love you, be safe, sending you love. You know, people are in an end of the world scenario kind of way of thinking, and so it's love everywhere, and that side of it is holding that ascension timeline. There is really, I have to say, from what I can see and what the 9 are telling me, no chance that they can switch this back to a new world order Armageddon timeline. They believe that they can. They really believe they can, and the 9 are calling this the final showdown. As in, we can call it end of days, entering into that end of day period, as I've said before and earlier on in this talk, the last stand. But ultimately, the phrase that really, really fits this is the final showdown. So the equinox this year was such a new beginning on multiple levels. And because this is happening on the 3rd dimensional level and the 4th, they've got their new AI in place, and that's now generating and siphoning and everything else. We're going into the 5th, 6th, and 7th dimensional realities. We now have new worlds there. Now, in the 4th dimension, there are structures called reality domains. The 4th dimension is not all bad. It's simply been extensively hijacked. Now, lots of it has been cleared. Over the last few years, the grid workers, the planetary galactic workers have cleared much. So there is now space for 4th dimensional reality domains, meaning that individuals who don't understand the 5th dimensional reality or bliss practices can actually create social gatherings of love in the 4th dimension without actually getting hooked in by the new AI generated structure. And I'm talking perhaps about online churches, something that's more fourth dimensional, but where people can still congregate energetically without realizing they're actually creating a collective and a gathering. So all of these things are yet to come. And as I've said, there are all these different multiple presentations of how all of this will manifest. But standing strong is that timeline. And I absolutely know with all of my being that we are on the ascension timeline, the paradise timeline, moving into the golden age. And whilst I don't see exactly how that's going to manifest, and we're not supposed to if we're using law of attraction, if all of you listening to this hold that goal, then you're adding to that law of attraction. I know that that is where we are going, and nothing can stop that. Nothing can stop that. But it looks as though at the moment that the golden age will begin. It has already begun, but the seeds to this new infrastructure, this new financial system, this new social system will occur in 2021. It could be earlier. I'm seeing 2021 at the moment, and it's funny how 2012 and 2021 are the same numbers, just switched. So, we had 2012, we had the whole sort of, practice run in many ways, although it wasn't, it was the actual ascension. But now it's like in the third dimension now, it's fallen into the third dimension. But we have to get there. We cannot sit on our laurels. So I think that's everything. Yeah, I've got through all of my notes. So I really hope that this has been helpful. What I'd like to say is if you have questions about anything I've said or comments, disagreements, more clarification, please feel free to write this in the comments, and I will be coming back and looking through and responding to some of your questions in the coming days, weeks, however long we will be going through this time period. So do send your questions. You can either email or pop them into the comment box, and I will be reading all the comments. And I thank you all so much for listening. I'm sending you all so much love. I will be meeting you there in those higher dimensional cities of bliss and those reality domains of multidimensional fabric. And to the newcomers who have stuck with this, thank you for listening. I hope I haven't completely blown your mind here. But if you've listened to the end, then you are, as I've said earlier, you are not a newly awakened individual. You wouldn't be able to sort of stay through this and hold this information if you weren't already awake. It's just now it's come to the forefront. So yeah, love to everybody, massive love to everybody. Thank you again for listening. I'll be back with more. Lots of love. Bye. What is karma? Are there ways we can balance this and become karma-free? Is there a particular nutritional plan we should follow for ascension? Do we increase our karmic balance by eating certain foods? How can we utilize sex magic to work with karma and move through ascension? There are many lessons we can learn from the peoples of ancient Lemuria, a civilization that existed before our known history on planet Earth. As we move through an ascension process collectively, we move back into a new Lemuria, and we take with us all the knowledge we have accumulated since those times. In this transmission from the white-winged collective consciousness of 9, key codes are presented for cellular memory recall, linking the reader beyond Atlantis and into the harmonious frequencies of the first physical civilization on the Earth, Lemuria. The 9 respond to questions using the Lemurian way as a template. Key-coded responses trigger activations within the reader as they receive the wisdom codes, standing as rainbow warriors of Gaia, moving into abundance, alchemy, and Stargate ascension. This transmission is dear to my heart, and I'm so very pleased to announce my new book, Lessons from a Living Lemuria. In this transmission from the white-winged collective consciousness of 9, I, Magenta Pixie, bring forward information specific to utilising the rose gold flame as antidote to 5G, EMFs, chemicals, chemtrails, and similar. The presented template utilises the Schumann resonance, and the technique is alchemical unification. In this book, the 9 discuss synchronicity, discernment skills, and understanding of discordance and disharmony within truth and lightworker communities. They present a workable model of expression, assisting the spiritual explorer in creating a necessary toolkit. This allows the individual to construct a shield, bringing safety, harmony, expansion, and cohesive sovereignty into their own personal reality and their matrix field. I am pleased to present my new short book, The Black Box Program and the Rose Gold Flame as Antidote.